Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about where you should be fishing in the month of October to catch more bass. So you've got two options. You can either be fishing shallow or you can be fishing deep. What I like to do is I like to kind of do a mixture of both, and here's why. So I think that more fish are moving shallow this time of year. We're just about to get our second cold front here in Texas in October. Not the second one in October, but the second one of the fall season. And I think more fish, there's a bigger population of fish that are moving up shallow or that live shallow around here. But the other side of that is I think it's still more likely, or you have more opportunity to catch bigger fish offshore, fishing piles or whatever offshore structure you may have on y'all's lakes. So I kind of like to mix the two up and do a mixture of shallow fishing and deep fishing this time of year, just to see which one's producing more each day and see which one's producing bigger fish. Most of the time it's the offshore stuff, but when I say offshore, it doesn't even have to be that deep anymore, because that thermocline's really been coming into effect the last month and moving those fish shallower and shallower. So they're not necessarily sitting out in 20 feet anymore. They could be sitting in 10 to 12 feet. And another thing that we have going on here around where I live in Texas is we haven't had rain in forever, so all our lakes are getting really, really low. So that brush pile that started in 18 to 20 feet in the beginning of the summer is now like in maybe 13 or 14. So doesn't always have to be like super deep. Offshore can still mean like it's just off the bank on a flat long point, like 10 to 12 feet of water. It's just off the bank is what I mean by offshore, really. Not beating the bank, not flipping laydowns, flipping stuff that's really close to the bank, that kind of deal. So to further break it down, we're going to talk about shallow fishing, and then we're going to talk about deep fishing. I mean, we already kind of highlighted what I think about both of them and what I think is the more realistic way of going about it this time of year. But now we're going to dive specifically into shallow and then specifically into deep fishing, kind of what you should be looking for, what you should be targeting, that kind of stuff. So now we're going to dive into specifically shallow fishing this time of year. And I like to keep it pretty simple. If you've watched the last video I posted, the top 3 fall baits, then you'll see kind of how I approach it even. Or you'll get a better understanding. Both the videos kind of go hand in hand. Here we're talking about strategy, places to look, and then that video is kind of like the baits that I would use for this approach, basically. So, and we're diving more into it. So shallow fishing, keep it simple. I like to run and gun a lot, cover a lot of water. And one very important thing to note, shallow fishing wise, is it can vary day to day, really. But the major players in deciding what part of a creek you should be fishing or what part of the lake you should be fishing, really just the part of the creek, because this is the time of year that bass notoriously move to the backs of creeks. So here in Texas, we've been on a warming trend. Our last cold front was like a month ago. I mean, it's not really a big cold front, but going from 110 to like the 80s, that's a cold front for us Texans. So we've been on a warming trend from the last month, and the fishing has gotten a lot, I'd say, tougher, because like a month ago, the places we were going, it was awesome. They were biting, it was easy, very predictable, that kind of deal. But now it's kind of petered back out. But we're getting another cold front here in a couple days. What we were noticing though is that the fish, the old notoriously fish moved to backs of creeks thing's true, because we were finding them back there. And as the warming trend progressed, the fish, they basically started to vacate that, whether it was because of the bait leaving or the fish just wanted to leave. It was probably just the bait was leaving, really. But the bait moved back out, and so the fish moved back out. And I'm kind of interested to see now, once this second cold front hits in the fall season, if those fish are going to go right back to what they were doing, or if we're just going to have to figure out where the heck they went again. So to keep shallow fishing, you want to keep that in mind for sure. Just the best thing I could advise, honestly, is start either in the way back. If you've only got one weekend to fish or one day a week to fish, start in the way back and then work your way out to the main lake, or start main lake and work your way back. Just so, once you figure out what section of the creek they're in, or the section of like the pockets, because some lakes just don't have creeks. They just have like little arms and fingers and stuff. And it applies very similarly like that, but figure out what part of the pockets, the creeks that they're in, and then typically you can run that all over your lakes, or all over that lake, not like the same or different lakes, but you get the point, hopefully. But things you want to be targeting are like isolated pieces of structure, wood, docks are really good as well. They can hold a bunch of fish, and this time of year you can catch multiple fish. It's this time of year when you find them, typically there's a bunch of fish together because they're trying to, or they're starting to get there, I should say. They're not necessarily, it's not like a TVA fishery where there's like 100 bass on one ledge, but it's still fish. When you find one fish, there's typically a congregation of them because they know winter's coming now. They've got the first cold front, second cold front. They're starting to get the picture, like we need to put the feed bag on and get to it, or we may not make it through the winter. So that's the kind of stuff you want to be targeting up shallow, and kind of my theory of how to break it down, where to start. And if you want to see what to throw, go to my last video, which was top 3 fall baits. Okay, now we're going to talk about deep fishing. So, like I said before, offshore is going to give you a better chance of catching the bigger than average fish. When I say bigger than average fish, I'm talking plus 4 to 5 pounds, basically. Like in my mind, where I'm fishing at these days, around the DFW Metroplex, most of the time up shallow, you're kind of capped off at that 4 to 5 pound range, in my experience. Not saying it's impossible for you to break that, because it definitely could happen, but for me, most of the time, I'm catching those bigger than average fish, bigger than 4 to 5 pounds offshore. So, and I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff you've been fishing all summer, or I've been fishing all summer long, as your brush piles, your rock piles, your points with hard spots on them, road beds, that kind of stuff. Because, I mean, in the beginning of the summer, all those places are like really hot and it's easy to catch them, in my mind, and in my experience too. And then as the summer progresses and into fall, it gets tougher. But the reason I think it gets a little bit tougher and your timing's got to be more specific now is because it's more big ones that are living out there, and the smaller fish are going up shallow, basically. So the big fish are typically the smarter fish, so you got to hit them when the time's right to get them to bite. So what else? Yeah. If you have stuck here till the end, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching the entire thing. I thought I'd mix a few more of these, I wouldn't say opinion-based, but just like experience-based, knowledge-based, things I've witnessed on the water pieces in there to help you guys learn how to catch fish better, because I always want to catch them, and I want to catch the biggest ones possible as often as possible. So if I can help you guys do that, might be able to help each other do that. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.